An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kalpas. Having it to see and listen to, remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's teachings. In Buddhism, when Zen practitioners share their understandings of the teachings and practice, it's offered on the basis of dana paramita. Dana is a Pali word that means generosity or to give freely, and this is done without the expectation of anything in return when the opportunity arises. And those who share the teachings at Great Tree do so on a Dana basis, so please support their practice by giving what you can. You can go to greattreetemple.org and hit the support button on the upper tab. Our speaker today is our abbess, Reverend Teijo Munnich. Daiju Teijo means Great Tree Right Stillness. Reverend Teijo is a disciple and Dharma heir of Rev Dainin Katagiri. She studied with him from 1975 until his death in 1990, receiving formal training at Hokyoji in Minnesota, Tassajara Zen Mountain Center in California, and Hosshinji Sodo in Obama, Japan. Reverend Munnich was ordained as a Zen priest in 1981. In 1983, she began to envision a practice center and community, and at its heart, a residential practice for women, which came to be Great Tree Zen Women's Temple. And after a lengthy search, a location was found in a suitable space in 2005 in Alexander. And the title of her talk today is growing large trees from small sticks, growing the spirit of Great Tree. Welcome, Manju-san. Oh, you're muted.
So when I said, can you hear me? You couldn't, right?
That's right.
But now you can, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not quite back at Great Tree yet. I'm still kind of in a personal retreat with Stella. But and I was going to give this talk after I got back at the end of this month. But as it turns out, I invited Reverend Cohn Franz, who is the current called guiding Kyoshi or guiding teacher of the newly formed Soto Zen North America. I asked him to come and talk to our community and beyond. Tankyo and Christine, you know what I'm talking about. He gave a talk at Sanshinji, Shohaku Okamura's temple. And what he was talking about is the intention of this newly formed organization called Soto Zen North America. And I really want to spread the word, and I want people to invite all your friends, all your Sangha, all your Zen friends to this talk, because it's a whole new kind of way of approaching this kind of organization. In the past, it's been priest-based, and I belong to the Japanese form of this organization since about 1997. And I've been going to meetings every year, as some of you know. And it is now kind of being turned over and recognized by Japan, turned over to us Americans. And this has been in the works for a while. Chimio has been part of it as being part of the board of the Japanese organization. But the difference that we're coming to in working out where this is going and what we want this organization to be and to make available is that it's becoming a little bit more temple based. And any Zen center is considered a temple if they're registered at the headquarters. So he talked about this, and he will talk about this and just what Soto Zen North America is about. Since it's community based, since it's going in that direction, I'm trying to include the community from the outset, and so that's why I want to have him speak to us. He did it. he did the one at Sanshinji in kind of a town hall style. So, but anyway, so that's why I changed it. I was going to talk about Bhutan first and then talk about this, but I decided to just plug myself in here because I've been thinking a lot, about the future of Great Tree. And of course, for a long time. And of course, my trip to Bhutan was to try and get myself at such a distance from Great Tree that I could really see it from a different perspective and see my own practice from a different perspective. And this Bhutan trip was financed by the Hamera Foundation. What's called this particular grant was called the Tara Fellowship. And Chimio received one too. And we could use it in any way we wanted, no matter what we proposed to do. And by the time that I received the grant, I decided I didn't want to use it in the ways that I had planned because I thought there would be a more beneficial way to do it. But that was last spring. And then all summer, we were planning the mountain seat. And so it was just kind of in the back of my mind, how am I going to use this? And then I had tea with Dr. Han Lai from the Urban Dharma. He wanted to come over and give me some gifts after the mountain seat ceremony. And so he said, yeah, can I come over and have tea with you? So we had this long conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I said, so I heard about that you're going on a Bhutan pilgrimage, leading a Bhutan pilgrimage. And he said, yeah, you want to go? And I just said, yes. Somehow, all that I had been mulling over in my mind all summer um, just manifests itself in this pilgrimage, this idea. And so I thought about a lot of things when I was over there. Of course, Bhutan is very interesting. It's Tibetan Buddhist, 95% Buddhist, 3% Muslim, 2% Christian. Just take that in. Imagine being in a 95% Buddhist country. And it's Tibetan Buddhist, and they tell all these they talk about miracles all the time. There's all these different miracles. And one of these miracles is something that inspired this talk today, because we went to this temple in Bumtang, which is the spiritual center of Bhutan. As a very old temple, and Dr. Lai is associated with His Holiness. I don't know how you refer to him, but they call him His Holiness. He's connected with him. He's in that same lineage. There's about 6 lineages, I guess, in Tibetan Buddhism. I don't know. I just learned a lot about Tibetan Buddhism in a very short time. But anyway, so we went to this temple and there was, oh wait, I might be getting these temples mixed up because we went to a lot of temples. But anyway, we went to a temple where there was this huge cypress tree, and I've got a picture of it. I'm going to share it just a minute. Let me do a full screen. Oops. Well, sorry, I haven't been doing this very much lately. I want to get this on a full screen. How do I do that?
If you drag the window over, is there a green button on the upper left corner of the photos window? Yeah, that one.
Thank you. So this is the cypress tree that we saw. And there was someone that they call Guru Rinpoche. I was doing a little bit of research on who Guru Rinpoche was. Anyway, I'm not going to even go into that because I just got so much information that I just can't stop. But anyway, Guru Rinpoche threw his stick to the ground, and up sprang this cypress tree. That's the story. And immediately when I heard it, I thought about at Minnesota Zen Center when we bought Hokyoji, our monastery in southeastern Minnesota. There was not a thing on it. And in order to get even to the site, we had to drive across a cow pasture and put everything on our heads and wade across a creek. So that's how primitive it was. But one of the first things that we did was we planted 2,000 pine trees. And this was in, I'm going to take this down for a minute. I should have gotten a picture of it. I got a picture of this ceremony. This was in 1978, about a year after we bought Hokyoji. And the purpose of planting these pine trees, and Chimio's been to Hokyoji, so you've seen these pine trees. They're those huge pine trees that are back behind the teacher's cabin up on that hill. And the purpose of planting these was for erosion. But I remember planting them, and they were not anything that looked like a tree. They were little sticks. And I thought, I'm a city kid, and I thought, how is this going to grow into a tree? And now, as I said, they're so huge and so crowded that they've started taking them out, I think. I think Andrea, who did the books, two of Katagiri Roshi's books, Andrea Martin, I was just communicating with her about this, and she told me that they've actually harvested some of those trees and used them for framing at Shoken's monastery that he built in Decorah, which is in Iowa. It's kind of about maybe 25 miles from Hokyoji. And he's built a Japanese-style temple in the middle of the cornfields in Iowa. So anyway, so it reminded me of this when I saw this tree. And I thought, wow, that's what a miracle is. And when we after I thought it was after we planted it, but Andrea said it was before. She wasn't there, but she's the archivist for Zen Center, Minnesota Zen Center. And she said that ceremony was before, and actually that makes a little more sense, but I think it was after. But anyway, Katagiri Roshi, I have his statement. She sent me his statement that he made at that time. Just a second, let me bring it up. I've been thinking about so much stuff and writing so much stuff that it might be a little tedious for me to find some of this stuff, but okay, here we go. Okay, here's where his statement is. So he said, 6 years have passed since we sowed the seeds of the Buddha way in the Midwest. He's talking about when he started at Minnesota Zen Center, but Hokyoji had been only around for a year at that point. No one knows as to how much the sowed seeds have grown. No answer is found in the only accurate, real process we have done so. This is his Japanese English. I'm just reading it as he wrote it. Just like a scarecrow, who continually catches the moon and cultivates clouds. Catches the Moon and Cultivates Clouds is the name of Minnesota Zen Center and Hokyoji. Hokyoji is translated as Catching the Moon Zen Mountain Monastery, and the one in Minneapolis is Ganshoji, and it means cultivating the clouds. So just like a scarecrow, He continually catches the moon and cultivates clouds. On the 28th of April, 1979, we all, with a reverential heart, dedicate our chanting of Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra to deities of Aizen land, asking them our declaration. On behalf of all the Sangha, I and all attendants here ask your forgiveness for our destruction of all macro and micro creatures and the nature of Aizen land. Aizen is the nearest town. It's not a town exactly, but we ask your permission to plant about 2,000 pine trees on this site for the good of mutual growth of the mountains, the rivers, and all creatures in past, present, and future. May your compassion protect the growth of the pine trees from earth, water, fire, wind, and any other possible damage, generation after generation, for all people who come to practice the Buddha way. All this at this very important moment when we dig out the ground and plant a tree, what is it? And then there's an interesting capital R, capital O, and the O has a line over it. And just let me pull up my Gmail because I asked Andrea what she thought this meant. Andrea is a great researcher, so if anybody knows anything about Minnesota Zen Center, it's her. Just a second. So she told me what she thought it meant, but I already forgot. Here we go. Just a second. I'm going to bring this up on the screen so you can see the characters. Some of you may know characters. I don't know. I just a minute share. So she said she's always wondered about that, but she's never investigated. It seems to be the same row as in Roshi. Can you read that? Can you all see that? The meaning and usage of, and I see, is used to mean aged or longevity. So this is interesting. That's right. I forgot that she wrote about longevity because the cypress tree is one of the symbols of Bhutan. And this apparently there's more than one legend about cypress trees that involve some kind of miracle, but this is the one in Dr. Lai's lineage. And it represents longevity, and that's what the cypress tree represents in Bhutan and probably some other things too. And when we were at Hokyoji one time, so we had some guests from Japan, and somehow we ended up giving them pine leaves. And apparently it has a sense of both longevity and kind of longevity in a relationship, kind of saying, we hope that you will bring your spirit back to this place. So apparently this is an Asian kind of way of looking at pine. I don't think they have cypress in Japan, so probably they just go with other kinds of pine. But, oh yeah, I want to show you too. I brought some seeds home from the tree. That's what they look like. I'm going to plant one at Great Tree and see if it grows. Actually, maybe all I need is a stick. I could just plant one of these sticks. Anyway, so let me finish. Let me go on. I actually have a little thing to keep me on task here. Oh, right. Yeah, that's okay. So then I wanted to, what I want to talk about in terms of Great Tree is kind of how I've been thinking about it. Just a second, I'm going to make you guys bigger. And, and you know, when Ejo McMullen, Reverend Ejo McMullen, talked about the mountain seat ceremony, he was talking about bringing forth this kind of um, infusing the spirit of the practice into Great Tree, that is part of what, particularly the first mountain seat ceremony represents, because it's the beginning of creating a temple lineage, you know, somebody to take care of the temple. We went to an old temple in Bhutan in the same area, and it was the Guru Rinpoche's main temple, a very old temple. And there was a young man there who had studied in Virginia, and he was getting his PhD, and his family was responsible for taking care of that temple. And I think he was like the fifth generation or something. They had been taking care of that temple for hundreds of years. I mean, I don't know how many generations it was, but he was very young, and he had come back because his father died. So somebody said, well, you know, maybe you can finish your PhD later. And he said, no, now I am responsible for this temple. My family is responsible for this temple. And I had never experienced that before in Japan. I'm sure it's the same sort of thing, because they often frequently pass their temple from father to son, or sometimes daughter, if they don't have a son. But I'd never really thought about it in that way, you know. And Ejo, some of you heard Ejo talking about how he saw this bonsai. They had this bonsai exhibit at a monastery he was at, and he saw on this one bonsai plant that he was very drawn to, you know, just had this certain kind of energy. He saw this list of people who had taken care of this bonsai plant for so many generations. And he said, this is the same thing that you're doing with the mountain seat ceremony. The first time that you do it, this is what you're setting up a lineage, you know. And so and he said, and you know, so you need to figure out what kind of spirit you want to have at Great Tree. And this is something I've been thinking about for a long time, you know. I'm not so inclined to do a traditional, or not traditional, but what's customary in America called a succession plan, because I haven't seen any succession plan that's worked. And so I feels like, why are we focusing? Why are we trying to set something up concrete for the future when everything is impermanent? You know, but what is important to me that be at Great Tree? You know, what is, and it came down to what are the things that I consider the most important, things that I continue to want to be involved in for the rest of my life, and what are things that I can let go of, because as I get older, I just don't have the energy to do so much as I used to do. And I'm glad we did as much as we did at Great Tree when we did it, because already there's some of that spirit. You can feel it in the walls. But and then I can't quite figure this out, but then he said, then there's this dragon that constantly circles the temple and uh, keeps and protects that spirit. And so I thought, well, I've thought for many years, what is it? Particularly, why did I find my Japanese trainings to be so helpful? And what do I see in Chimyo and Genjo that is not so common in American Zen? What is it about that practice? And one of the things that I've come to, and I've only come to one thing so far, but one of the things I've realized lately is that my whole life has been based on faith. Thank you, Catholic Church. Do you know? Because I have lived completely on faith my whole life. Everything has unfolded. And somebody asked me one time, is there anything that you regret in your life? And I said, there's one thing that I regret, and that is that I didn't major in music when I went to college because there was this really great musician teacher that I couldn't study with because I wasn't a music major. But that's the only thing in my life I regret. And I don't regret that so much. I mean, it's not weighing on me. Well, clearly it is to some extent because I still remember, but I think about Great Tree, and people say, "Oh, this is your dream," and I said, "No, it wasn't my dream. It was a vision, and it was something that took hold of me that I couldn't let go of." And I can't even take responsibility for Great Tree being in existence because so many people came along and just picked up the ball and then passed it on to the next person. And it's been taken care of from beginning with only me kind of standing there saying, okay, well, maybe this will work and maybe it won't, but saying, well, I may as well go forward because I don't want to go backwards. And you've all heard that story, but that it even has come into fruition to me is one of those things that in the future maybe people are going to say, wow, that was a miracle. Elizabeth Kent, who started Southern Dharma and had the money to do it, she said to me when I first said, I really want to start this thing, and we had a board and everything by then, and she said, how are you going to do this? You don't have any money. And I thought, what can I say? I had nothing to say. I just said, I got to try. If I don't, I'm going to be laying on my deathbed saying I should have tried. And I believe that, I was talking to Dr. Lai the other day, we had tea, and I was talking about, how to explain, you know, how I think about Great Tree going forward. And it's very clear to me, but I don't know how to explain it, it's trying to explain what is faith. And anyway, he said to me, well, when you die, it's either going to go on or it isn't. And I'm like, yeah. And I thought, you know what? When I was so worried about paying the mortgage because we had to pay $2,000 a month, and I don't even know how we did it, but people came forward and somehow helped at the moments when we needed help. One day we just didn't have the money one month, and Ruthann and I were just kind of going crazy, like, how can we do this? And I am not going to go into how this came about. I know how it kind of came about, but right before it was we had to pay that monthly mortgage, someone appeared at the door with $2,000 in cash. And so this is something, Great Tree is something that is going to continue. I mean, and I I'm going to die and it's going to be different. And even if as I pull away from Great Tree, just because we got to go forward, we got to find new people to take care of Great Tree. Um, I don't know how I started that sentence, so I can't finish it. I'm sorry. But anyway, so I think, and one of the things that's happening too, which is really interesting, is with Soto Zen North America, and particularly with it being community based, one of the things that's very exciting about that to me is that we are talking about, trying to share information between, all the temples that are involved, and kind of getting to know each other. And Chimio and I were talking about the other day about one of Shohaku's students who is out in Arkansas, and remote, you know. I was looking at trying to drive there and I was like, what? Where is this place? I've never even been to Arkansas actually. But anyway, just, getting to know each other's sanghas and getting to know each other's students. And I was thinking, wow, there's so much potential for finding the future caretaker of Great Tree uh, in that larger community, because there are women out there who have studied this practice under teachers who at some point are going to need a place to land. So anyway, I think it's a matter of networking. It's a kind of spiritual networking, which is maybe to some extent visiting each other's temples and getting to know each other's sanghas. And also, but just creating that awareness that there are these other places out there, and that we're all on Zoom these days. So we have ways of getting to know each other's sanghas and um, helping each other in various ways. There are sanghas, for example, Nebraska Zen Center, and who was known in Reverend known in Koene's Nebraska Zen Center he didn't start it. It was kind of started around Katagiri Roshi, but he picked up the ball and ran with it at a point when it was really, Katagiri Roshi had died and they were really kind of struggling. And he really turned it into a real place. And now they haven't had a teacher for several years. And they're continuing, and they just celebrated their 50th anniversary, was it? Anyway, I think it was their 50th anniversary. Yeah. And I went out there for that. And so they need a teacher, and Cedar Rapids needs a teacher. Zuiko Redding was out there, and she has died now. So, there's these places that they're continuing. It's amazing to me that the Nebraska Zen Center has continued, because it was, even when Katagiri Roshi was going there once a month, I visited with him once, and it was kind of tenuous. But anyway, they continued, and I used to go there when I lived in Kansas. I used to go up there once a month. And then it was, still kind of shaky. But when Nonin went there, he made it into something. And so there's kind of the strength of that continuous thread that, I was taught when I was talking out there, I was talking about that other thing in what was the last book we were reading? The Mountain Waters Sutra, Dogen's Mountains and Water Sutra, the commentary by Okamura. It talked about the path with no trace. And it feels like that's kind of what happens, within these communities, that there is a path that's kind of set, and it gets followed somehow, and I think that, we have created that at Great Tree. It has, right now there's not a lot going on in a sense. But because I mean, we used to have meditation every morning and 3 evenings a week in person, and well, we still have sessions, and we had residents, and we 6 days a week. That was so now it's pretty quiet, but I think the strength of the practice is still there. And we didn't have we had more and less people all the time. I mean, this is the nature of community, but I don't know what time it is. I'm just jabbering on here. Okay, 9:39. Let me look at my minute, look at my notes and see. So this is what I wrote. Succession plans are a delusion. A sangha has to go through what it goes through. In a sense, it's like losing a parent. Depending on the sangha, it will happen or not. And I was thinking about how important the strength of a sangha is. And we have sangha beyond sangha. We have people, if you looked at the mountain seat ceremony, at the 80 some people that came, that was sangha. And not to mention all the people that came online who watched the ceremony on Zoom. That's sangha. People may not be here all the time, but a person like Abby, some of you may have met Abby at the Mountain Seat ceremony. She's in her 30s now, but she came to Great Tree when she was 24, and she was just out of college, and she had gotten some money from some insurance from a car accident, and she decided to come to Great Tree. And she came in with great trepidation, wondering if it was even a real place or if it was just some scam on the internet. And she was supposed to stay for a month. She had enough money to stay for a month. I think we were charging $100 for a month. She had just enough to do that. And then I said, Abby, you're such a great gift to Great Tree. If you want to stay longer, you can stay longer. She said, well, maybe I can stay a little longer. So then she stayed for another month. And this kind of thing happened a lot. And now, and then she came back and Soda Roxu and received the precepts. And so she came back and took care of Great Tree one time when Chimio and I went away. And she's, and then she came back for the mountain seat ceremony. So there are these people who are connected. Anne is one. She can't come up from Athens all the time, but she's very connected. I see her face on Zoom all the time. And sometimes we have lengthy 3-hour conversations. So this is all Sangha. Sangha is the Sangha that comes to Saturdays and takes care of the practice on Saturdays. Sangha is Thursday nights. Whoever shows up, it just sits together. Sangha is Zen Center of Asheville, who really helps take care of Great Tree and takes care of the practice. They still have daily morning practice 5 days a week. So, Sangha is huge. And now our Sangha, is marching towards these other Sanghas. And we have this great opportunity now to connect. And so we need to get the word out about this coming up with Soto Zen North America. Cohen is a great leader and speaker. He's already getting a little worn out though, because there's so much to do. But he can fill you in. He meets with both the denominational council, which is a group of 5 people that are trying to make some decisions about how to keep the practice alive and in whatever that deeper faith. I was thinking, going back to the theme of faith, I think faith is really the underlying spirit that I feel is important to cultivate at Great Tree. Um, when when you go to the monastery, you are told you need to follow the schedule. And I thought, oh, great. Because when I was at Minnesota Zen Center, which I was around there for a long time, and also Tassajara before I went to Japan, and I thought, oh, wow, it'd be so nice to just follow the schedule and not have to be juggling a million different jobs, and you only have one job when you're in the monastery. But when you follow the schedule, sometimes you have to do things that you think you can't do. And you don't have time to think, can I do this or not? Because the schedule just keeps moving. And you just have to keep up with it. And so you start to develop that part of you that knows that you can do things that you think you can't. And I think this is a really important thing in this practice, to go beyond what we think we know, And for me, I'm so familiar in kind of being in charge. I can kind of do things my own way at Great Tree, But I wanted to put myself back into that situation in Bhutan. That's why I went to this pilgrimage. I said to Dr. Lai, I said, this is exactly what I need to do. I need to go to this pilgrimage, go on a pilgrimage and not be in charge. I've been needing to do that for a long time. I've been so embedded in Great Tree for the last 23 years or no longer than that. When did we start the first board, Chimio? Was that like 2001 or something like that?
Yeah, it would be around then. I think we
She was
got
on
in
the
here.
first board.
What year were we in here?
What year, what?
What year did we come here to
Oh,
make?
2005. We moved into Great Tree.
So yeah, probably about 2001.
Mm-hmm. And actually, it was the Charlotte group that got it started. Our first board was entirely the Charlotte group. That's why Chimio was on the first board. And yeah, so we planted a seed at our first ceremony. We had a sesshin out at, what was it, Luther? What was it called? That place where we were? It was some kind of a place that had a camp. We were in the camping place in bunk beds. And what was it? Luther Ridge.
Luther Ridge, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Episcopal, I think, was it Episcopal or something? Anyway, maybe Lutheran, but anyway, we were in the camp part. Yeah. We weren't in the fancy part. And one of the things we did at the end of the sesshin was somebody had given me a seed necklace. I don't know. He had made a necklace with the seed in there, and the seed kept falling out of the necklace. It was kind of just wound in some wire. And I thought, oh, this is the seed for the great tree. So we will have a planting ceremony. So I got a little pot and we had a planting ceremony out at this campground place. I mean, it was indoors, but the sesshin was, but so we had this big ceremony where we planted it, and I took this home with me and I was watering it every day. And then summer came and it really, I said, I should put it out in the sun. So I put it out in the sun at the place where I was staying. And one day I went out there and it was completely dug up and the seed was gone. So apparently some squirrel had found it. And that was my first thought was, Great Tree isn't going to work because the seed has been stolen, But this morning I was thinking about that and I thought, well, maybe what happened is that a squirrel came and got it and then made its way out to the great tree site and pooped it out there. So anyway, so Dr. Lai said to me, he said, if great tree gets sold after you die, there's nothing you can do about it. And I was like, yeah, that's true. I should just, not be concerned about making firm plans about it and just let go of that. And then I thought about how I used to sit on my cushion in the early days and think, what if we can't pay for this place, And I used to think about all the stuff we had moved in and just moving it all out, That in itself was just too much for me to think about. But then I thought, well, what if we lose it? What if we can't pay for it? And I thought, you know what? I thought that I had to think this many times before it actually kind of took hold, but I thought at Hokyoji, we just started intense. And after Roshi died, it just took on a whole new, it took on many different personalities as different people. Nonin was there for a while. He's one of Katagiri Roshi's students. And Shoken was there for a while. And now Dokai is there. So it's already gone through a couple different caretakers. But, it changed. And I remember, I thought, Hokyoji is it's not going to continue in the way that Katagiri Roshi wanted it to, et cetera, And his stupa is there. There's a stupa. And I thought, well, but his stupa's there. Some of his ashes are there. So, maybe that'll have some kind of effect on its continuity. But really, it was just barely being taken care of. And there was a lot of controversy because it was Minnesota Zen Center it was incorporated under Minnesota Zen Center, and people at Minnesota Zen Center didn't want to give the money to Hokyoji, and so lots of things happened, and I just thought, but now I looked back at one point and I thought, you know what though? Even if Hokyoji got sold, completely sold, still we had a great practice there. And I thought, that's all we need to do. If this place, if we don't get it, if we have a good practice, at least we can look back and say, yeah, but remember, remember that great practice that we had there? Yeah. So, that's another way to think about it, if we just take care of now. I wrote a poem about that too. It's kind of a poem. I'm not really a poet, so let me see if I can find that. Okay, well, I'm just going to read to you what I wrote. This is all when I was kind of thinking about this talk. It's not important to me that things at Great Tree be done in any particular way. We follow Soto Zen forms for rituals because these forms have some reference, some meaning. But the forms themselves are not the point. It is the meaning that has been infused in these forms that brings about transformation. And whether we understand the meanings or not, coming together, moving together, chanting together, elicits energy that transforms. I remember a feeling of not understanding the purpose of that ceremony at Hokyoji when I was standing there in the middle of that open field in the hot sun. Just like those sticks we put into the ground, that seemed like wasted energy to me at the time, unnecessary labor, because how could little sticks become trees? Now these little sticks are giant trees that need thinning. That's how our spiritual practice works. We just put the stick in the ground, and since it's there, just water it. I remember staying at the home of a friend while he was away. He asked me to water his plants. There was one pot of dirt under the kitchen sink. I didn't know if it was alive or not, so I just watered it. When my friend returned, he was amazed. He had written it off as dead. We don't know the results of our faith. All we have to do is water the sticks we planted, put them in the sunshine, and water them. I think perhaps my recent trip to Bhutan was an attempt to reawaken faith in myself. The journey to the future is a journey of faith. No matter how we prepare, we cannot know. If we think we know, we will probably be disappointed or even feel a sense that we failed in some way. This is why we have to be mindful of the present. It's 10:54. What should we do? Somebody take charge. Somebody over there at Great Tree, take charge. Chimio, what are we going to do now?
Well, how about we let somebody else say something about Great Tree, their experience of Sangha, practice with you, and see what happens.
Do you want to start?
Well, I want to start. Well, okay. I was not trying to throw myself under the bus.
I know you would. So I have to do it. You always make me do the hard work.
Okay. Well, obviously I've had a lot of experience of practice at Great Tree with Teijo and with the Great Tree Sangha in all its iterations throughout the past 20, 23, 25 years, whenever you start counting. And it's been hard. It's been joy. It's been confusing, and it's been clarifying. And I don't know that I have to explain all that, because if you experience Sangha at Great Tree, you know what I mean, even if you don't know what I mean. So yeah, continuation is continuation, no matter what it looks like. Great Tree has looked a whole lot of different ways, in its existence. And yeah, it has to be faith. I try to be careful with the word faith, because we have this idea of what it is in our culture, in our heads, of what faith is. But there's a lot of faith in walking into a strange room like Abby did, sitting down and looking at the wall and having faith in that practice, in what happens there that goes beyond words. You can't even describe the connections that you make that last sometimes 5 seconds, sometimes 25 years. So yeah, and it's all about Sangha. I was trying to explain to someone, sometime last week, that this is a pilgrimage, as she said. You don't have to go all the way to Bhutan to make that pilgrimage, though it's really cool to go to Bhutan and make that pilgrimage, sometimes you just have to, turn off on the highway, come up that long, steep road and sit down. So that's what Great Tree is. That's what practice is. And thank y'all for walking with us. Even if you didn't understand that's what you were doing. Thank you. And thank you to Anji-san for making that leap.
I really like what you said about faith. I think I always think about faith coming, like I always think about like ancestors having faith, kind of like even though they're gone into like the afterlife, just like that their faith is kind of like forever, that they have faith in us. And I think faith is kind of like it's beyond hope and it's beyond any outcome of something happening. But it's really hard for me to describe. But I really like the concept of faith and just like how things just come together. And it seems especially like things have come together here. You're muted.
Right now at Great Tree, things have come together and it's beautiful. But this has happened before and they've fallen apart and come together and fallen apart and come together. And that's really the way the practice works. It's sort of like riding a bucking bronco. Although I've never actually ridden a bucking bronco, but I have felt that way when I sat on the cushion at times.
Me too.
Thank you, Della, anyway.
Shimio, yes, you did talk about pilgrimage as you alluded to during Dokusan during the last session last weekend. And I appreciate your presence. And I need to have faith on my pilgrimage where I'm at right now in my life is not a really good place. So I really need to dig deep and pull myself up by the bootstraps, as they say. And I thank Sangha for being there, and I have faith that things will get better. Thank you.
Can I just say, Mangetsu, leave the straps alone. Just reach for your Sangha, baby. So, thank you.
Can I when you spoke about having tea with Dr. Lai and how he told you, yeah, no succession plan is right on the money, for how much control we have about the future. It reminded me of this poem, which I have right here. It's only 10, I only have 10 lines, short lines of it, but it's just like what he was telling you, I think. and it's by Antonio Machado. It says, Wayfarer, your footprints are the pathway and nothing else. Wayfarer, there is no path. The path is made as you walk. As you walk, the path is made, and when you gaze behind, you see the path where you'll never walk again. Wayfarer, there is no path, just the wake upon the sea.
Thank you.
I'm gonna recite that poem in Spanish because that's the original language, and I love that poem so much that I memorized it in Spanish. So it goes, Caminante son tus huellas el camino y nada más. Caminante no hay camino, se hace el camino al andar. Al andar se hace el camino y al volver la vista atrás, sé de la senda que nunca se ha de volver a pisar. Caminante no hay camino, sino estelas en la mar.
Oh, it's so beautiful in Spanish.
Like music. Thank you. We should probably do some announcements.
Yeah. Okay. So probably most timely is starting on Monday, April 13th. There will be the spring practice period. And the book that they're studying is Boundless Heart by Christina Feldman. So if you're interested, you can email me, I'll give you the information, but opening tea will be Monday at 7 p.m. You can do Zoom or in person. And you have to come for the weekly meditation and study group. That's kind of the commitment you have to make. The times will be decided on later. But if you want to learn more, just email me at info@greattreetemple.org. There will also be next Saturday, the speaker is Reverend Cone Franz. Reverend Cone Franz is
No,
next week?
I'm speaking next week, I think.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yes, okay. And next week, Teijo will be speaking about her pilgrimage to Bhutan. And then the Sunday after that, April 19th, there will both be an intro to Zen class as well as the forest bathing or Shinrin Yoku that's led by Brooke Reynolds here from 2 to 5. So that'll be on Sunday, April 19th. There's also, just to sort of keep it on people's radar, there's sesshin in May, which you can register for. It's the precept sesshin, but you don't have to be taking the precepts to come. And there's also family retreat, June 12th through 14th. So if you want any more information about that, just email me. Okay, that's it. May the merit of this practice,
May the merit of this practice
benefit all beings, and bring peace.
and bring peace.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.